I'm going to go Saturday in the morning to the synagogue here. She wasn't having it. You step out of this house, you're out for good. So I told her, okay, I'm telling you right now, you take a foot out of this door, I'm going to spank you, and you're going to remember what my name is. And so I questioned her. I thought, why are you so upset? You didn't tell me to be Christian, Catholic, anything. Why does it bother you? So she said, you're going to sit down, and that's it. So I said, okay, fine. I sat down. Everybody, weekends, watch TV, football, soccer, whatever, chips, sit down in the living room. I took a pillow, and I covered my face. She said, what are you doing? I told her, Shabbos, we don't watch TV. Say, called my phone, don't pick up. Shabbos, we don't answer the phone. We don't touch electricity. Sat down like a mensch for the first time in my life with bought a challah, whatever food. And I sat down to eat in front of everybody. And I did this for a couple of Shabbos. She didn't let me go. And I would cover my face and I would sleep through the whole Shabbos. And during those weeks, I would dive into Hashem. She's not gonna back down that quickly. Help me that it should work.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Meaningful People podcast. So happy to have you again. We sat down with an awesome guest this weekend. His name is Mayor Weiss. You probably do not know him. I had not known him up until I met him literally less than 24 hours ago. It's one of those amazing stories of how we got this guest. Momo met somebody who knew Mayor, and we gave him a shout out in the episode, Ellie Schwab. One thing led to the next, and we had Mayor on the podcast, and we heard one of the most incredible stories we've ever heard on this podcast. So sit tight. It's an amazing episode of literally Mayor, who is formerly known as Nelson, who had a Hispanic upbringing. He worked in a Jewish grocery, but I'm not going to spoil the story for you. If you're watching this on YouTube, you see what he looks like now. It is unbelievable. Listen all the way to the end. It's an amazing episode. I want to give a big shout out to our friends at Alpert and Associates for sponsoring this episode. Moshe Alpert. Okay, guys, life insurance. You need to get the life insurance set up. You need to call Moshe Alpert. Or you can email him at alpertmoshe@gmail.com. You can call at 718-644-1594. I was in Moshe's office yesterday because I have a policy through Moshe. I have money invested with Moshe. So those are a couple of things that you need to really think about doing. He showed me my portfolio. Things are looking pretty good, Baruch Hashem. And that's because Moshe knows what he's doing. His team knows what he's doing. And of course, Hashem is involved as well, very much. But Moshe's a good yid, so maybe that helps. Call Moshe Alpert, 718-644-1594. All your life insurance needs, your investment needs. When I was there in his office, someone actually called him from listening to the Meaningful People podcast. He had a meeting with them. Hopefully it leads to business. But maybe it's time that you reach out to him as well and see how we can take care of you. We'll talk to you later on in this episode about our friends at Collars & Co., RCCS, and Aleph Beta. So enjoy this episode. You are listening to the Meaningful People podcast.
The podcast featuring our nation's most impactful, influential,
and meaningful people.
Thank you so much, Mayor, for coming in. And I want to thank Elliot Schwab, for introducing us, and Yoni Jonathan Kirshner as well. We met at a bar mitzvah, and it was really great to meet you. And we really appreciate that you came into the office. I understand from them.
I actually worked there.
What's that?
I worked there.
Of course. No, but we met at the bar mitzvah first, I think, right?
I don't think so. We met. I think we met. Oh,
they told me about you at the bar mitzvah. Maybe.
Erroneous.
Very deep.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah, I'm like, he's talking about a bar mitzvah. I'm like, well, what are you talking about?
No, so Elliot Schwab made a bar mitzvah not long ago, as did
correct.
Jonathan Kirshner.
Yeah, correct. Jonathan also made it.
Exactly. It was like making bar mitzvah. Oh, we're both wearing glasses?
Totally not planned, but okay.
Very deep.
Yeah. But this is
sunny outside.
This is one of those guests that like you were somewhere and like, yo, this guy would be great. And then you bumped into Mayor in the place where he works.
People ask me that a lot, by the way. How do you get like your guests? Like, where do they come from? And because someone's like, oh, I have a great idea. And I'm like, they come from these conversations.
Totally.
Like the ones that we're having.
To be honest, I didn't even think as deep to come. Like I was like, podcast, Meaningful People podcast. I heard about it. I heard of it. Like we had whatever. Like I had a couple of people who mentioned it prior, and I saw some videos on YouTube, and I was like, you know what? Maybe it sounds like a good idea.
Well, outside your comfort zone?
Yes. Yeah. I'm usually very quiet. I'm not I'm usually hiding, and behind everybody. I'm quiet. So whatever. Even though we don't have an audience, I still feel like, a little bit nervous. But
no, I feel you. 100%. So I guess, let's delve into the story of Mayor Weiss. I know you said that you like to sit in the back, stay hidden, and I'm sure many people have stood next to you and they don't know your journey, your story. So if you can, I guess take us from the beginning. What was your upbringing like? Where did you grow up?
Right. So I was born in Manhattan. I spent about, I think, 2 years there. I don't have big memories on Manhattan, but I know that growing up, I moved to the Bronx. I'm a child of 2 Mexican immigrants, and I'm the middle child of 2 older sisters, 2 younger brothers. So I grew up in the Bronx. We weren't the wealthiest, but my uncle actually owned the property where we lived, and he rented it out to his family. And growing up there was it was difficult, and at the same time it was I don't know. I always look at things like today, looking backwards. It was like one of the biggest parts of my life growing up, because I learned a lot then. I lived there, I think, probably till I was like 8, and I went to public school there, and I had very good teachers at school, who really affected my life, because they, as I'm gonna mention later, they were very big pillars to the buildup of my personality. Then I moved to Brooklyn, Bushwick. There, my uncle sold the property in the Bronx after a couple of years, and we moved to Brooklyn. There was a bigger apartment, whatever, and I was in high school.
Parents were working in the city when you were in the Bronx?
Correct. And basically, once I was in Brooklyn, I started looking for high schools, whatever, like a normal kid. And I ended up finding a high school called Benjamin Banneker. This high school is it's like on Clinton and Myrtle. And basically, I started attending there. I found good stuff about it. I heard good stuff about it, and I decided to go there. In the middle of the year, my family was struggling a little bit financially. And I said, you know what? I was maybe 15 and a half, 16. And I said, I want to start working. And I was focusing solely on education. Growing up, it's one of the pillars of things like education, college, success, money, typical lifestyle, goals, careers, whatever you want to call it. And I said, you know what? Okay, fine. I want to start working, because as I go into high school, I need to buy books. I need to, wear nice clothing. I'm starting to see the atmosphere is changing from middle school, high school. You go to high school, people are wearing nice clothes, nice shoes, and everything. So I'm like, you know what? My parents can't afford it, but they're working very hard to just keep the roof on and cover basic expenses. I want to work, and I want to be able to fund these things. So on my way back, I used to take a bus, just one route. It was a straight bus, and there was a supermarket by one of the bus stops. And I decided, I'm going to try the supermarket. So I went inside, and I spoke to Aid that was inside. It was a Jewish supermarket, and I spoke to somebody who was apparently the manager. And I asked him if he's looking to hire anybody. And he asked me, how old are you? I told him I'm 15. He said, no way. So I said, okay, fine. I walked out. On the way out, I saw that my sister's husband worked there. I saw he was working there.
You hadn't known that prior?
I hadn't known that prior.
Wow.
And
First Hashgacha Pratis.
Yes. So I go to him and I tell him, like, you know, I'm looking for a job. He asked me, like, what are you doing here? I'm looking for a job. That was that. I make nothing of it. And over the weekend, he told me, like, oh, there's a manager there you could speak to. He's a cool guy. Gave me his number. Text him, call him, tell him that I sent you, and that's it. Fine. I called this guy onto Shabbos. Ended up being Saturday night, whatever. I called Saturday night, and I told him, look, I'm related to such and such. I'm looking for a job. Are you looking to hire? So he said, yeah, come through. Fine. I walk into this place. It was a Thursday afternoon, hectic supermarket. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, and I couldn't talk to him for like 2 minutes, and until I pulled him over, and I said, you know, like, so he tells me, yeah, fine, you can start next week. I'm like, that's it? Fine. So I started working, and I started just packing groceries.
That was your first exposure to the Heimische culture, that it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Correct.
Yeah. And this was in addition to continuing your schooling?
Correct.
Okay.
So the supermarket, the name of it is Chestnut Supermarket in Williamsburg. It's owned by Moshe Lezerlando. And maybe I shouldn't have said the age, because whatever. But anyways, so I started working, and
3 years later.
Right. And I started working there. Once I started working there, there was nothing really to it. I started working. I was packing bags. Not a big rocket science. I was whatever.
Although it's not easy. Yeah, try opening one of these bags sometimes. They get stuck together. I have a lot of respect for the people packing the bags.
Yeah. So then, like, Pesach season came in, and Pesach was like a tenfold of what I was used to, like, working, and I was promoted to register. So I started scanning people out. That's when I started talking to people more, because as a packing bags, you're not really talking to anybody.
Right.
So I started talking to people, and one of the people who I spoke to was the person who was in charge of the Besmedrish next to Chestnut. So Chestnut is sitting on Myrtle Avenue. Right next to it, there's a Satmar Besmedrish. And he was the one person in charge of the Besmedrish, and he wanted me to, I know how to speak Spanish, so he wanted me to speak to the goyim that were working there, to the workers that are working there. And by the way, am I allowed to say goyim?
Yeah.
Fine. And so I used to translate for them back and forth. One day, I think it was in the morning, Sunday, a Sunday. And I walked in, and I found, like, people in Besmedrish early, like, davening. And I'm like, what's going on here? Like, so this kept going on for a couple more times. I used to walk into Besmedrish and, like, nothing. I was comfortable. And one day in the afternoon, I went in, and I'm hearing, like, koilis. One of the chadurim there was somebody who was davening for the ummah, but he was loud, sharp. His voice was nice, and I just curiosity struck, and I walked in, like, a little bit. I didn't know they were in the middle of a minyan, but they were davening mincha, and this guy who was by the ummah, I see he's shuckling a little bit, and he's, like, really emotional when he's davening. I was like, what's going on? Like, what is this? So I went to the best rabbi.
Can I interject? Did you have, growing up, did you have any exposure to going to church or prayer, any kind of organized spiritual work?
So my father was Catholic, is not sure. My mother was not religious. She doesn't really belong anywhere, but she believes in God. And one of the things growing up that was very important, which brings me back to the Bronx, because in the Bronx we had a period of time where my mother and my both parents separated, and my mother couldn't handle everything financially, and my mother used to always tell me, like, I don't know where he is, who he is, or what he is, but know there's God in the world. So you have to, before you go to sleep, always pray. Thank for the day and ask God to give you another day, more blessings, and that's it.
Is that something that you practiced?
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
As a young,
Correct.
I'm just curious, what would those prayers look like if you could give us a peek? Like,
so again, one of the most important things for me has always been family. And even regardless now that I converted and I became Jewish, I have a close connection to my mother because, as you guys understand a little bit later, she has like, I'm not here where I'm sitting today without her. So my understanding then was not like a person who's 18, knows life a little bit. My understanding then was, I wanted to help my mother. That my mother should have strength, that we should be able to, continue going, and we should be healthy, and I should have toys, and I should have this. These were my prayers. And yeah, so in reference to that question, that was that. But this always, it carried along through the years. Like it went from one thing to another, to another, to another. For me, one of my strongest things today in Yiddishkeit is tefillah. By far, it's one of the, it is the connection that I have with Hashem.
And you encountered that for the first time in that Satmar Bes Medrash during that minyan.
Correct.
so you knew what they were doing. You knew they were.
I didn't know what they were doing. Only after I found out, I went on Google, Chabad popped up.
You must have been so confused.
Yeah, I was confused.
I always wondered.
I was confused because you have, somebody standing by the
Bima the Aron Kodesh.
right. What and he's shuckling and he's davening, and usually like the stenders are like, not, they're slanted, right? So he's like going like this. I'm like, what is this guy doing? Like, so I went on Google and I typed in like, what do Jewish people do in the afternoon? And Chabad pops up, Mincha, afternoon prayers. I went in and they had a link to the Shemona Esrei, and I was reading through it. I was like, wow, it's a nice prayer. So I started looking at the procedure, like the ABCs. What do I have to do here? And then at work, as I was learning more and more and more, I was asking more. So people at the beginning is kind of interesting because I started doing things and asking questions to be funny, but really it was because I was embarrassed to ask people, like, this is interesting, I want to know more. So I had a very good connection with customers and the managers there, because I was a good worker and they knew me from the store, and I was very talkative. And so I used to ask questions, and the buildup of those questions led to me being like, okay, one day I was like, you know what? I want to wear a kapo, a yarmulke. So it started as a joke, but really it wasn't a joke, because I had read on Chabad that there was a story of a ganef, that the mother was crying, whatever, and told him if he covers his head, he won't be a thief. So when I read the story, I was like, what's pshat? Like, whoa, what is this? So I said, you know what? Let me cover my head. I was like, that shows fear of heaven. What does it show? Like, what? So I put on a yarmulke, only in the grocery. And people thought it was funny, and they laughed. And this, internally, it wasn't funny for me. But nobody knew this, because I myself wasn't sure what this was leading to. And then as time went on, like, people started getting friendly with me. People like quizzed me on different things, and I would answer. And I don't think people really thought much of it. One day I had somebody, one of the customers, he was technically my friend also, he comes into the grocery and probably had a day off. He was like upset. He comes and he rips off my yarmulke and he tells me, you can't have it. I told him, why? He's like, what do you think this is a joke? What are you doing? And I was like, nothing. I'm just covering my head. So I put on my hoodie. I had a hoodie then. So I covered my head with a hoodie. He's like, why are you taking it away from me? He didn't want to talk to me. He was upset. He went to the back of the grocery. He wanted to smoke a cigarette, whatever. And I followed him. I was like, give me my capo. And he's like, what do you think? This is a joke? This is a joke to you? And then he was a strong, a lot of koch. And I managed to squeeze out the yarmulke from his hand. And he said something that really hurt me. Like, he said, you're a lost fish in the sea.
Wow.
And I thought about it, and that's why it hurt me, because I really was. And I said, why does it hurt me so much? The reason was because I didn't have direction, I didn't have happiness, and I was missing something. So I started learning more about...
I want to open a parenthesis, something that you said that just struck me as very insightful. When a person encounters an insult, if a person is confident that what the aggressor is saying is not true, then it's not so hurtful.
It's like me saying too, you're an alien.
Right.
It doesn't bother you.
Erroneous. I'm not an alien, so
totally erroneous.
It doesn't have an effect. But when a person hits on a chord, when there's this thread of truth underlying it, that opens up a wound.
Correct. And as a result, like he mentioned this to me, and there was two people in the room, and one of them was like, just like, he didn't know what to do. He was like, why are you treating him like that? But he didn't say anything. And then this guy was just like upset, day off or whatever. And then like I didn't want to cry in front of them. So I was like, you know what? Forget it. I walked out. And then I went to the side and like I started crying. I felt bad. And at the moment I couldn't explain why. But I have a reflection process that it's constant for me. Like every day, at the end of the day, it's like, what happened today? How did you change? What did you do? And that night I was like, why does it hurt me so much? And it was because of that, because I was really lost. I didn't have a purpose in my life and I felt empty. And then I was making some money. I didn't have any expenses, right? The best life possible. Money, no expenses. So I had nice clothes, shoes, everything.
Living the dream.
Correct.
Oh yeah.
Where did you develop that daily reflection process? That sounds really cool.
In the Bronx, because when my parents separated, I had two sisters, a younger brother, and a newborn then, and they all gravitate to me for direction. So I'm basically a 6-year-old thinking for my brothers and sisters, right? So they seek the direction and confidence in me. So I had to think, like I knew that my parents weren't together. How do I make it better for them as well? You know, like how do I make it less painful for them to understand that we don't have money for this or we didn't have money for that, right? I remember I used to sleep on a pink elephant bed. I was a boy. Yeah, what boy wants to sleep on a pink elephant bed, right? But I this is what my mother had. And it's not like she didn't want to provide for me. She just couldn't, right? So how do I explain this to a kid younger than me, that we are sleeping on a pink elephant bed because we don't have the money to, right? He doesn't understand this. So I had to mature much quicker, and I had to explain it to him, like, you know, I made something out of it. I don't remember exactly, but I think I made like, oh, this is so cool and whatever. So the reflection process started happening internally for me. Like, why is this happening to us? Like, why is my father here? Like, does he love us? Does he not love us? Like, why is he not a part of my life, right? And my mother was also helping me answer some things because I was very vocal. Like, if I had a question, I would ask. and she would answer. She would always speak good, positive, and that's where that reflection process started. And as you get older, once you're accustomed to do something, like it just becomes like a habit. And I like, in a sense, I think now that I'm thinking about it a little bit more, in a sense, like I wanted to be not like my father. So I had to develop traits completely opposite to his, right?
Was it something that you were worried about? Like, were you worried that you were gonna be like your father?
In essence, I'm still to this day.
You're still worried about that. Yes. And that's why you work on developing character traits.
Yeah. Because I feel that one of the most important things that a child sees on a daily basis are his parents, and you could sniff the truth and the fake.
Yeah.
So I feel like, I remember all the important people in my life. They had something that I just remember them by, and it ends up being that this is their main attribute, their main quality. So I don't want my children to see a reflection of anything that he didn't show me. And so I grew up with him, right? So, and he was part of my life later when they got back together. So I was always on the constant, like it was a constant battle. Like, he's my father and I know he works hard, but I don't see him. Like, he's not, like my mother was my father and mother, right? So although he was present in the house, like he lived there, I didn't have a father. Like, he just wasn't there.
Right.
And as you grow up, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of things that kids want to speak to with a male role model, and challenges that you have that I didn't get to necessarily speak to him. But Hashem was he helped me out a lot as I converted.
Before you knew Hashem.
Correct. That I was able to talk to the right people, and he put the right people in front of me that, in a sense, made up for all that time that I didn't have a father.
Mm-hmm. We'll be right back to this episode of Meaningful People. I have a quick question for you. Why does God let us suffer? How can we make Tisha B'Av feel relevant and meaningful for us today when the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash happened so long ago? These questions are impossible to answer, but on Tisha B'Av, they are impossible to ignore. With Tisha B'Av approaching very fast, I want to encourage you to check out Aleph Beta's collection of Tisha B'Av videos. Rabbi David Foreman, the founder of Aleph Beta, was on our podcast. He is one of my favorite guests we've had on this podcast, and his videos explore some of the most beloved Tisha B'Av texts to discover the deeper meaning of the relevance of the day. And right now, we will offer you a promo code to get $18 off of the annual premium subscription. That is promo code Meaningful23. That is Meaningful23. When you subscribe, you get the discount, $18 off your annual premium subscription. I have an account at Aleph Beta. I pay for it for the year. The content is amazing. It is thought-provoking. It is meaningful. It is deep. Rabbi Foreman does an incredible job, and Aleph Beta does an amazing job creating the content. It is something that you've never seen before. Aleph Beta has been around for such a long time, and they've been leaders in the field, in the industry of what they do. Head to alephbeta.org. Make sure to use promo code Meaningful23. You can hit the link in the description of the show notes of this episode, and you will go there. And Mirz Hashem, Tisha B'Av should be a Yontif this year, and Rabbi Foreman's going to have to make some new videos. But go check it out. Now back to this episode.
It's the trait of a chacham. Chazal say, Ezu chacham halomin mikal adam. And hopefully we have enough people that we can learn from what to do.
Correct.
But sometimes there are people in our life, and we have to find a way to learn from them also. Sometimes what not to do.
Right. Once I started getting more knowledgeable on Yiddishkeit, I started asking myself, like, constantly, what do you want to do? Why are you learning? Like, where's this going? Why are you doing this? Like, you don't really have a purpose on doing it, like learning anything. Like, whoa.
What's the end game? Yeah.
Right. And I was like, I'm just curious. So it led to another thing. And I used to hear Shidim, and I was so intrigued. Like, and I had a feeling, something warm, like almost like belonging, like I belonged there, like my being was treading in the right direction. And so I reached out to a rabbi in Borough Park, and he told me, look for the nearest Chabad house, speak to the rabbi, and if he wants to teach you, I'll guide you. Okay. Go back on Chabad.com, put in my zip code. Ends up being that behind my house, 2 blocks down, there was a Chabad house. Look at the stories that are about to begin.
This is not exactly in Yehupitzville. This is.
I called the Chabad house, and the rabbi said, okay, fine. Meet me tomorrow on 770. I told him what time. He says 7 o'clock.
Wow. Said, okay. He would have said 770 if it existed at that time. I'm just saying. Surprised he didn't say like 810 or something.
So I woke up 7 o'clock. My mother asked me, where are you going? I told her I need to go to school early. Then there was like regents, whatever. I was like, they're making a pre-class for regents. I wanted to go. So this was I get there and I see a guy standing on the corner, gingy beard, almost like orange. And I'm like, I know this guy from somewhere. Ends up being that this rabbi from the Ridgewood community used to go to a barber shop that is owned by Russian Jews who are not religious. And I happened to be there once with my brother. They were my barbers. Guy walks in. And I was...
Blowing the shofar.
Blowing the shofar. I was sitting there with my brother, and we were covering our faces because it was funny. Like, this guy's coming in, blowing on a piece of stick. Like, what's this guy doing? We're laughing there. And that memory just came back. And I asked him, you were at this barbershop? He's like, yeah. He's like, and he explained to me the whole story on these Yiddish kinder there. He ended up being my teacher.
Wow. You mind saying his name?
His first name is Nochem.
Okay.
His last name is a little bit tricky. Can I check?
You can check. You said orange beard. My name is Menachem. I'm just making sure it wasn't me, you know. Just making
How's
sure.
your shofar blues and skills?
Not so good.
I have him saved as Rabbi Nochem.
That's good enough, Rabbi Nochem. But sure, Menachem Mendel, by the way. It's no way his name was Nachman or anything. Who?
Sarvechev. Yeah.
If you could just turn it down. I just want to... Yeah, perfect. Okay, perfect.
Right.
Okay, so...
Rabbi Nochem.
Rabbi Nochem.
Nochem Sarvechev, yeah.
Gewalt.
So that's like pretty trippy. Like, you were blowing the show from the barbershop, and I want to become Jewish now.
No, this was... So when I saw him then in Crown Heights, this memory was from like a couple of months ago, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly the time, but I remember being there with my brother and him walking in and bluesing the shofar. So I asked him, he was like, yes. So I learned with him every single day, I think about a year. And he was giving feedback to this Ruv who was leading the conversion until it was said and done. And then I was coming home.
From that time where you reached out and sort of made up to meet at 770, you knew already that you were on this journey to Geras?
I to be honest, at the very beginning, like the first 2 weeks, I was still unsure. I wasn't sure because I didn't know what the response of my parents was gonna be, and I was also testing myself a little bit. Like I thought, like, do I see myself living this life in the future? Like, do I really want to do this? And am I able to follow everything? Like, what's the purpose? Why are you doing this? That was my main question. Like, why are you doing this? And the answer to that was that I was looking for something. I was looking for closeness, and I was looking for closeness to God. The question was who, which one, which religion, which path, and I had opportunities to hear out other people, but something just didn't sit right. It was either the story didn't match. I ask a lot of questions. If I ask a question and you push off a response, or something's not answered, or it leaves you with like
Es schmeckt nicht.
yeah. And I asked somebody once, Yid from Williamsburg, I asked him a question, and he says, I don't know the answer, but I'm sure there's an answer. You're asking the wrong person. I don't know, but there is an answer. This was for me like, oh, there's answers. So who to ask the question, how to get the answer is the challenge, right? But there's answers. The Torah has the answer to everything. You just need to find the correct person to answer your question. So as I was sort of like self-testing myself, I asked myself all these questions over and over again, every week, every day. Mind you, I was going to study with him from 7 to like 8:30. Then I would rush to high school. Then after that, I would go to work. And then 3, 4 o'clock till 11, that was closing. 12-ish, Yom Tivs. Before Yom Tivs, it was till 12, 1. So it took a toll. And I was motivated. That was what surprised me the most. Like I wanted to go. And we were learning Tanya. Tanya has some elevated stuff. Like it's not, but I was like, whoa, what's this? Like I was so fascinated at the different avenues of Kedisha and this and that. And I'm like, where was I till now? Like, and then I decided, I said, I want to do it. So how do I bring up the conversation to my parents?
Yeah.
I get home, I bought online. It wasn't online, actually. It was in a store in Crown Heights, tzitzis. And then I wanted to wear them at night. So I took them out the packaging, and my mother sees it, and she's like, what's this? I told her they're tzitzis. She's like, take this out of my house. I don't want to see this. What's this? You start working in a Jewish supermarket, all of a sudden this and this and that. And I was like, I want to wear them. I've been studying. I want to wear them. No, we weren't raised like this, and this isn't our direction. I told her, oh yeah? What's our direction? What's our direction? Tell me what's our direction. Couldn't answer. I thought, exactly. We don't have a direction. We're just floating through life every single day. One day you tell me, pray to God. Who's that God? I don't know. We'll figure it out. I think I figured it out. Mother was hurt. I'm chitziv, like.
You told her that she was a fish lost at sea.
Right. And she didn't say anything, but she grounded me. And that's when I felt like I'm good with my decision.
Why did you feel then you're good with your decision?
Because if I had the guts to take that step and just like speak out like that to my mother, I respect my mother very much.
Right.
It was like a natural instinct for me to defend what I believed in. And I thought, I felt good. I felt good afterwards.
Felt right.
Right. And happens to be that weekend, Shabbos, the rabbi told me, come to my shul, Shabbos. He walks from Crown Heights all the way to Ridgewood, which is like about an 1.5 to 2 hour walk every Shabbos. And he said, come down. We're making a minyan. You could be part of the Shabbos prayers. So I told my mother, I'm going to go Saturday in the morning to the synagogue here. She wasn't having it. You step out of this house, you're out for good. So I told her, okay. She said, I'm telling you right now, you take a foot out of this door, I'm going to spank you, and you're going to remember what my name is. So I questioned her. Why are you so upset? You didn't tell me to be something. You didn't tell me to be Christian, Catholic, anything. Why does it bother you? We didn't grow up like this. I told her, my mother's very different from her family. She's the one outcast. I told her, you're different from everybody else. I'm different from everybody else too.
So I'm exactly like you.
Exactly. Didn't answer, but she wasn't having it. So she said, you're going to sit down and that's it. So I said, okay, fine. I sat down. Everybody, weekends, watch TV, football, soccer, whatever, chips, sit down in the living room. I took a pillow and I covered my face. She said, what are you doing? I told her, Shabbos, we don't watch TV. Didn't have what to say. Called my phone. I don't pick up. Shabbos, we don't answer the phone. We don't touch electricity. Sat down like a mensch for the first time in my life I bought a challah, whatever food. I sat down to eat in front of everybody. She was not having it at all. And I did this for a couple of Shabbos. She didn't let me go. And I would cover my face and I would sleep through the whole Shabbos. And during those weeks, I would dive into Hashem and I would ask him to make it easier. Just make it that it should go easy. She's not going to back down that quickly. Help me that it should work. And nature took its course. As time went by, she became much more sensitive to it, and she saw that I was really changing. And I was doing nothing wrong. I was going to school. I was in honors. I graduated with honors. I was doing everything right. I was working. She didn't have what to hold against me because I was doing the correct thing.
It's not like you were rebelling.
Correct.
Yeah, it's not like it was a bad influence.
Correct. Quite the opposite. My brothers took much more a different light to me. Like I was talking to them about different things. I was engaging them in other ways. And then comes Simchas Torah. Simchas Torah was the first Yom Tov that I spent fully. Not fully, I had to make a malucha, but
At this point, if you don't mind me asking, at this point, did you had converted already?
No,
I was,
not yet.
still, I was still
in
learning.
the process.
I was still learning. You have
Okay.
to learn a certain amount of time.
He said he did a malacha.
We'll be right back to this episode of the Meaningful People podcast, but first, a quick word from our friends at RCCS. You all know about RCCS, the Rofei Cholom Cancer Society. They do incredible things for Klal Yisrael. They help out so many people. And July 18th and 19th, they are having a fundraiser. It is called Raising the Bar at driveup.com/RCCS. If you don't know what they do, they have a budget of $19.5 million a year. That's close to $20 million a year that their budget. What does that go towards? Well, $9.6 million is total recovered through insurance advocacy. $1 million facilitated in pharmaceutical and compassion grants. They have over 4,600 patients that they deal with who are unfortunately battling cancer. And when someone gets a diagnosis, their first call is to RCCS to figure out, well, how are they going to get through this? How are they going to manage this financially? How are they going to manage this emotionally? What is it going to be with their family? And Klal Yisrael is amazing. It's amazing that we have RCCS, and we need to make sure that we take care of RCCS. So July 18th and 19th, you can head to driveup.com/RCCS. Guidance, funding, care. That is RCCS. And as a klal, we need to make sure that they are taken care of. And it should be a schus that none of us should ever need to use their services. Now back to this episode.
He said he did a malacha because Goy Sheshavas is an issue. You were reminding me when you said about the walk and that you wanted to wear tzitzis. There's an old joke about someone who's going through gerus. So it's a problem. Goy Sheshavas. It's tricky. So he wears a pair of tzitzis so that it's extra beged. It's not necessary. So he's carrying on Shabbos. He gets to wear tzitzis and he's carrying on Shabbos. So then the person says, oh, but there's an Erev over here. So he says, well, you think I hold from that Erev?
So you had to do. So you had to do a malacha.
Yes.
Which malacha did he do?
So what I would do is, at the beginning, I would just flick like light.
Like right when Shabbos started.
Not when Shabbos started, mamish by the end.
By the end.
I made sure that
Why
it
by
wasn't
the
a
end?
flick because it didn't feel right. It hurt me to do these malachas.
Right. Meaning you would end Shabbos earlier
Weiss knows.
while it was still Shabbos.
While it's Shabbos.
Right.
I'm sure according to some Zmanim, it was not Shabbos anymore.
No,
I made sure to
l'chumra.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I made sure to not go into the.
Right after Shalosh
He,
Shudas.
he wasn't holding 72 and okay.
Gewalt.
And so at that time I was in high school. I was in my 12th grade.
Wow.
And I started going black and white. I started growing my pious. I started putting them behind my ear, and the people around me were just looking at me. The interesting part of that whole experience, like, they all knew me from school, and I wouldn't say I was a popular kid. I was a well-known person. Like I said, I had the nicest shoes. Every new sneaker release, I had the best Jordans, whatever. So people gravitated towards me. Like, I was with the cool guys. So people knew me.
What was your name? What they know you as?
Nelson.
Nelson. Okay.
Yeah. And when like this whole change happened, like, they were like a little bit shocked, but they at the same time they were like understanding in a weird way. And I actually had a friend. His name was Lamar. Once I started explaining to him a little bit more, like, I can't touch women. Like, there has to be, like, I can't physically touch them. I can only, whatever. He used to walk with me through the halls, and he used to see, like, it's natural for people to greet each other. Hey, good morning, a hug and a kiss on the cheek, right? So he'd be like, no, he's Jewish. He can't.
Hey, he was your bouncer.
Yeah.
He was my-
Right. Yeah.
And so I didn't have such a negative experience, right? And I used to talk to them also, and they used to understand me, and they supported me like my friends. And so I was starting with the Levish, slowly. And my mother was seeing it also. And then I decided I wanted to go to Etzisru. I was 17. It was 17 July, August. I decided I wanted to go to Etzisru to learn. So July was when I finished my conversion. So what happened there was, I skipped a chunk. What happened there was the rabbi who was guiding me, his name was Avrum Reich. He put together the Beis Din. He checked on my progress, and he was happy with it. So we started with the bris. I got a circumcision. Then you have to heal.
At 17.
Yeah. Technically, that's a problem because they're not allowed to, only 18, but I pushed them very much. Then I had to heal, and then I went tefillah. And I remember walking into the water. It was, I don't know if it was just me. The water felt like it was 200 degrees.
Wow.
Boiling hot. It wasn't, I know what mikvah is,
A Haisa mikveh?
It was boiling. Like, I felt like boiling. It was burning my skin. And it wasn't that hot because afterwards I put my hand back inside and it wasn't hot. Walking in, it was boiling hot. And I was like thinking, like, this is it. Like, you can't back out. If you're going forward, you're going forward. If you can't, stop right now. And I said, no, I'm going to keep walking. And I went down the steps, and then I was toivel.
The Chazal say that Ger gets the neshama in the emergence from the mikveh. So
Correct.
the person goes in without a neshama, and that's how you're illustrating.
Right.
And in there,
that's how I felt.
yeah,
At that moment. That's what I felt. The sensation from the water was boiling hot.
Wow.
I know that to be in a mikveh, to be able to be in a mikveh, one needs a neshama.
Yeah.
Gewalt.
Once that happened, the davening was different. The learning was different for the first week. and then it started going down.
Really?
Yeah, I used to feel like the first time. So the first mitzvah that I actually did was put on tefillin. The next morning, whatever, davened Shachris in 770. I had a sense. I had a weird thing like in my fingertips, like I could feel like my body was about to like come out of my fingertips. Like I had a pressure on my fingertips.
I think your tefillin was too tight.
Those are those little pricks. No, and I felt like when I davened, like I felt I was getting somewhere, and it happened for the first week or so, and then it just went away. Yeah.
So the intensity or and that's not something that you were prepared for or you wanted?
I don't know. I don't know.
I think that's the human condition. When something is new, when something is fresh, it has an incredible hischadshus.
We see it every year, like Elul, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. People walk out of Ne'ilah on a high, and then literally it could be 27 hours later, and it's just like not so much.
Correct. So the people who were mentoring me then, when I spoke to them about this, that's what they told me. They told me, so you're fresh off the oven, you know.
Yeah.
You take out a baguette from the oven, it's boiling, you push it down, it's machaya, yeah. You let it sit on the shelf 2 or 3 days, it becomes cold. So, I remember he told me, this is going to be your life struggle. Every single day, you need to be burning hot, not be cold. You see how cold feels, right? It doesn't feel like that. If it was that, or it was something else, or it was just my mind, I don't know, but I can only tell you what I felt. And then a lot of things started changing. Like I was going to Yom Tiv, to people's houses. People already knew me then. The famous guy that converted in the grocery.
The guy who worked in the grocery who packed the bags, and now he's a year.
Traded in the Jordans for a Bekisha.
Correct.
Well, you're taking a stab at a title over there, Bauman.
Yeah. Yeah. Before that, I used to spend I spent Simchas Torah by somebody, one of my friends. I'm in Williamsburg. That's where my crowd was at the beginning. Like, it still is. I'm friends with a lot of people there, but that's where it all started in Williamsburg. And I used to go to people's houses. Some of them were comfortable with me going, even as a non-Jew, but and I remember walking into Shiel, Simchas Torah, South Memphis Medrash. I walked in, I was like the white dot on the black sheet. The moment I walked in, 500 people were staring at me.
Oh.
And I ended up buying the 7th Akofa there. And I was dancing with the Torah, with the dying of the Bismedrash. I remember it was like something, it was just like a feeling that I had inside. It was a very good feeling. And these were all things that like validated what I was doing. Like, it wasn't the fact that I bought something. It wasn't the fact that I was dancing. It was just a genuine, like, I felt happy. Like, I felt in place. The whole process wasn't that complicated. The learning for me wasn't a schlep. The switching from eating non-kosher food to eating kosher food, it wasn't a schlep. Like, it just happened like this.
Wow.
It wasn't difficult for you?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
Okay.
It was just like I felt like I was coming home.
You were no longer a fish lost at sea.
Right.
You were a piece of herring at Kiddush. Exactly where it's supposed to be.
Hey, Bauman, you know how they make fish into herring, right? Did you feel, I guess when you're in that Satmar based measures dancing with the Torah, the 7 Akafa, did you feel like you belonged?
You're asking the crowd?
I'm asking you because you had mentioned that you were like the black dot on a white sheet.
Because I'm walking into a place where you only see pies, beketches, shtramel, these type of kapeliches. So I felt different, but I didn't care. That's one of it's one of the things that I had to learn very quickly, is not care what people perceive of me.
I bet, yeah.
And I don't pay attention to it till this day. I'm focused on what my purpose here in the world is. what I understand it to be. It could change tomorrow, but today, what I see.
My wife likes the expression, what people say and think about you is none of your business.
Right. If I were to have listened to every single person who said something, I had from people saying, why do you have to convert? You could have your young years, have fun, go out, party, enjoy. Once everything, you convert. Why do you have to do it now? Go to college, learn, get a successful job. You're going to be successful. You're going to be able to find a good shidduch. You're going to be able to have panusa. You're not going to be dependent on everybody. Nebuch, all the Gaidim and all the Balchivas, they live off this and that. If I were to listen to every single person that said something, I wouldn't be where I'm standing today. I'd be doing something different every month. The reason why I wanted to leave to Eretz Yisrael was because I felt I felt that I wanted to learn Yiddishkeit. So once I was already fully Magayer, I was at a very, very low level of Yiddishkeit. Yeah, you study and you learn, but it's different when you're actually living it. So I started learning whatever I could. After my day, I had school, work, whatever. End of the day, you're zapped with, you don't have any energy to learn, whatever. So I would get pieces and bits here and there. And I felt it wasn't enough. And life led me to decide that I needed to go to Eretz Yisrael, to go into yeshiva, and I had to learn full time. So I started getting information on yeshivas, and I ended up coming across a yeshiva in Yerushalayim. It's called Torah V'Minna. It's under the guidance of Bells, Yerushalayim. And I called over there, like a chier or whatever, spoke to him. He has a slot for me. So I'm ready to fly to Yisrael. Only problem is I'm 17. I'm just Magayer. My mother doesn't give me.
She didn't let you leave the country.
She didn't let me wear tits. You think she?
She's still at this point. You converted. She didn't come around to it.
She knew what was happening, but maybe she thought it was like a phase or something.
Right.
Like okay, let him do it. And so once I decided to go to Yisrael, that ended up happening. I come to her and I tell her that I need her to sign up permission that she didn't want. Ended up being that I schlepped it till my birthday, my 18th birthday. Then I'm able to fly by myself. So I told her, you know what, I'm going to go, whether you like it or not. And I got up and I flew. I went to Yisrael. I left my job. Mind you, the day that I flew to Yisrael, I got a call from a big university offering me a full ride scholarship to their college. And I was like, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to decline. She said, why? You know who we are? I said, yes, I know, but I'm flying to Israel tomorrow, and I'm not interested. She said, what university in Israel is better than us? So it's not a university.
Torah V'Minna.
So I get there, and that's where the new phase of Mayor Weiss. That was the beginning of.
How did you? I guess either you choose the name Mayor Weiss. How did the name Mayor Weiss come to be?
It happened by the bris.
By the bris.
I was contemplating different names. So, like I mentioned, like you asked me before what my name was.
Yeah.
So my name was Nelson. So everybody in the grocery, anyways, called me Newson. Newson. So Newson was one of the names. But I always had something from Mayer. Mayer is or, like a light. And I remember reading somewhere then, like, guide him, bring light to the world. The world is dark, God brings light. So it ended up.
And the Weiss?
The Weiss, Vas. Yiddish Vas is white. Clean slate, nothing behind me.
Very good.
Wow.
Clean.
Wow, that's special. I'm just going to do this one more time to you. We'll be right back to this episode of the Meaningful People podcast. I don't usually wear a shirt. I mean, I wear clothing. I like sweatshirts. I like comfortable wear. I'm a comfort guy. But when I do wear a shirt, I wear collars and co. because that is comfortable. And it looks good. Every Shabbos, every time I have a meeting, every time I have a podcast, unless I'm wearing a Be Kind sweatshirt, whatever. Shout out to the merch. But I'm usually wearing collars and co. You need to head to collarsandco.com, use promo code meaningful for 15% off. So many of you told me that you just made an order at Collars & Co. How are you, Yitzchak Alter? I know you ordered Collars & Co. You forgot to use the promo code. Shame on you. I'm kidding. You're the best. But guys, use the promo code. It's 15% off. Use promo code 15% off of the most comfortable and best looking shirts in the entire shirt industry. That is collarsandco.com. They have other stuff as well. They have sweaters, but the shirts are their main product. The firm collar, the soft shirt. You heard me say it before, and I'll say it again. The most comfortable shirt in the world, and you will look amazing. You'll thank me later, but use the promo code meaningful for 15% off. And a quick word from the Tesla Chicago Chesed Fund. Guys, you go win a Tesla of your choice or $50,000 cash. What would I do? Sterling, what would you do? Editor Sterling Staffless, what would you do? $50,000 or the Tesla? $50,000 or the Tesla? I don't know. It's a really good question, but you can't even answer that question unless you buy a ticket to this raffle. You need to go ahead and go to ccfraffle.com. That is ccfraffle.com. Use the code MPP. Use code MPP and you will get $25 off of 2 tickets or $500 off of 15 tickets. Use promo code MPP and you can answer that question. $50,000 or a Tesla? $50,000 or a Tesla? I would probably take the cash. That's just me. But what would you do? Well, buy a ticket and maybe we'll find out. Now back to this episode. So you're married to Sorrel and you started, getting close to bells.
So I started getting close to bells, yes. I started getting close to bells. I was in the yeshiva. I hadn't seen the Rebbe then for maybe 10 months, 11 months. I wasn't part of bells. I had more of in my mind, I was like, all I knew was Williamsburg, Satmar. So I was in that mentality. And the Satmar Rebbe went a couple of times to Yerushalayim. I was following him, whatever, I went with him. But I didn't have anything with bells then. Then one day, Hanukkah, the Rebbe likes when all the Talmidim from this yeshiva come to him, and he gives Hanukkah geld for all the Talmidim. So we went, and I got my Hanukkah geld. Fine. Then one of the Rabbunim there told me, maybe go into the Rebbe, introduce yourself, it'd be a nice thing. I said, okay, fine, I'll go to the Rebbe. So we're by the Rebbe, waiting outside of the Rebbe's room. And the Rebbe tells, whatever, then they call us out, whatever, we go into the Rebbe. And the Rebbe looks at me, looks like this. What's your name? Mayor Weiss. Where are you from? I told him America. He says, who's your rabbi? Meaning, who's your Rav? Who's your guidance? That's what he was asking me. I didn't answer. I was like,
Free agent.
yeah, I'm like, I can't say Satmar because at the end of the day, really, I'm not clicking in. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm there. I know Yiddishkeit through their lenses, but I'm not part of this community. I can't say my Chabad teachers. I don't know where. I didn't say anything. So the Rebbe smiled and he said, Atzluch Rabba. Fine. Erev Shabbos, the Rosh Hashiva gives a shiur to Rebbe Minna. He calls me in to his office and he says, the Rebbe says that he wants you to go to his house Shabbos in the morning, Mituk Tish. He wants you to eat Shabbos Sida in the free. In the morning, he wants you to eat Shabbos with him. I said,
Pretty cool.
why me? Yeah, like, what do I have with him? Like, mind you, then, the reason why I'm saying, like, what do I have with him? Like, who is he? Is I always lacked that male role in my life.
Right.
So I had one of the most difficult things that I had was respecting a male authority. because I never had someone to respect. So it was like, oh, this guy thinks he's holy. Who is he? Like,
Like summoning me to
like
appear.
I don't want to go.
It's just a big mehegetezi.
Yeah. And I was like, you know what? Fine. So the Rebbe said, the Rosh Hashiva told me, he's like, I'm going to tell you the information, speak to this other, another one from the Rebbe in the yeshiva, and he'll set you up. I said, okay, fine. So
He was like, it's not a suggestion. It's like, you're going to be there.
Right.
It's like when you jump out of a plane,
like,
pulling the parachute is a
Yeah.
suggestion.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll set you up and he'll go. I said, fine. What do I have to lose? One Shabbos, it doesn't work out. So I go and I daven tefillahs and bells. And beautiful tefillahs. I was very surprised. I enjoyed it. And then we get to the point with the Rebbe. The Rebbe goes out through his pathway in the Besmedish, and he's walking towards me. Like there's a lot of people waiting outside of his his room, and he's walking towards me, and I start getting like shaking. Like I'm like, what's going on? Like I start getting like a pachet, and we go in and we're sitting down. Mind you, nobody was there. Nobody was there. The Rebbe has a kiddush with the oilim, and I was part of that. I sat down by the Rebbe's table. And then afterwards, we move into his private dining room where he and his family have the Sida. The person who's in charge there, he tells me, go wash yourself. I went to wash myself, and I sit down by the table. Nobody was there, just me and the Rebbe like this. I'm like,
Am I getting punked?
Yeah. What am I supposed? Usually when I did see him, it's like there's like 500,000 people around, and you're one of them. Here I'm like right here. I was uncomfortable, and I just I washed. I'm in a bracha, and I'm just like looking down the whole time. And I like look up, and then I was staring at him like he has his hand like he's just staring at me. And I'm like just looking down. Ran out afterwards, right? We finished up the Sida, ran out. And then another week. Then I decided Bells has something.
One second, a week after week, the Rebbe would invite you to.
It was an open invitation every week.
Just you and him?
No, it's not only him; it's his family's there.
Oh, okay.
But I'm saying when I washed myself that first time, he was there by himself. Like
just looking at you.
He had already He had already washed. And all the Eineklich and the other people were going and washing, and they were doing their own thing, like in the kitchen, whatever. And then I'm like over here sitting with the Rebbe, like,
wow.
But pardon the ignorance, but it's not common for the Rebbe to have orchim, to have guests at the Suda.
The Rebbe has one or two that are there frequently, and then usually there's like an extra. So I was that extra, like, but no.
Wow.
Your question is
by the numbers, very infrequent.
And then something like intrigued me about the Rebbe. I don't know what happened, what it was. And then I started like listening to his old Toiras and stuff. And I don't know, it clicked. I started becoming more involved with people there. And then I met like my life mentors. One of them is a son of the Klein's ice cream. The person who started Klein's ice cream, his name is Ephraim Klein. He has a son, his name is Yaakov Shulam Klein. He lives in Yerushalayim. He himself was then he had a wine factory, and he had a lot of guest Shabbos. And I was very close to him. Like I used to go to him to Shabbos by night. When I wasn't by the Rebbe, I would only eat by him.
I heard dessert is epic there.
Yeah.
It's you don't have Klein's ice cream there, but yeah. So I used to eat by him almost every Shabbos, and we developed a relationship, and we were very close. We are very close to this day, but he was that male role model that I needed, and he was a fire.
He was the toaster that needed to keep you warm.
Yes, he gave me that direction. Like. Then it was all nice and I was already in the community and like I'm starting to develop relationships, but internally I was still like everything was happening quickly and I was like, what's my goal? Like, where am I going? Like, how do I fix the current situation that I'm in? Like, I literally felt like I was just like lost a little bit, right? Like I felt that I was like, I didn't belong anywhere. I needed to get guidance, like how to prepare myself for shidduchim and for all these things. Like I didn't know anything, right? So he instructed me through everything. He was there. I used to have, I not only did I have a personal relationship with him, more importantly, like I learned with him. Gemuda, Hasidus. And then he started putting me together with other people. And Hashem told you at the beginning, he saw exactly what I needed. It happens to be that all the people that were placed around me, if you were to ask a random person, like in Bells in the community, who these people are, they'll tell you, oh, him. I was put with a couple of these people who ended up building Mayor Weiss. So this was all b'chesed from Hashem.
No.
The combination of my mother and these people built who I am today.
Mikamcha Yisrael.
Yeah.
If you could take us to, I guess, present day, Mayor Weiss, are you married?
I'm married, yes. I'm married 4 years already.
Also.
I have 2 daughters.
Oh.
Also, Allah Siyata Shema was part of that whole process. That's a story for itself.
Part 2.
Yeah. But yeah, I like I mentioned earlier, I'm constantly reflecting. And one of the things that I like to do and put a lot of emphasis on is tefillah and davening. I feel that as a person, I developed a lot by not necessarily looking at what I need, but in a sense, like taking a look at others and thinking about others, right? I remember as a kid, one of the happiest moments that I had was when I left something out that I want to bring it in to a certain level. Yeah. When I was in the early stages of researching and finding Judaism, my mother was picked up by ICE. I was maybe 15, 16. And I remember that I was left with my father and my 2 siblings and my sisters. I don't bring it up because it gets me emotional. So if I could, whatever. And I took lead of the house, even with my father there. I woke up in the morning, I put my brothers together and took them to school. And I always had to portray that happy face. I had to be the backbone of the family. And I remember that I had an ice cream, a Haagen-Dazs ice cream, small mini cup. And I was sitting together with my brothers and I was eating the ice cream. By the second scoop that I was about to eat, I looked up and I see my brothers just like looking at me, like craving the ice cream. A regular kid my age wasn't going to think, let me share. My ice cream, I'm going to eat it. And I stopped and I gave it to them. And I told them, divide it in half and split it. This moment for me was a very important moment because I felt happy. I felt that what I did was good. And I remember then that right afterwards, like a day afterwards, I went to visit my mother. She was in a center in New Jersey. And I asked God, on the way back. My brothers were crying. I was during the visit, I didn't shed a tear. I was strong because I had to put that front for my mother. She needed to be strong, and if I cried, she was going to cry, and I knew she was going to cry. On the way back, I remember asking Hashem, and I didn't know, but I said, I don't know where you are, who you are. What I know is one thing. If you exist, give me strength, because I need it. If you exist, show me your presence. Show me that you run the world. Show me that you're in charge. Show me. And these dialogues, almost in a sense testing, expecting results, were things that I did in the future as well. And that's how that whole tefillah thing started shaping for me. And then it wasn't about me, I used to think to myself after, like, okay, now that I'm here, where am I holding? And I started making a reflection on things that I saw were missing in the world, people who were suffering, people who were passing away. And I thought to myself, like, what do I have? I have a lot of good things. Thank God I'm here. I'm Jewish. I have that blessing. And I used to say, don't give me, if you have something scheduled, like some good that you're going to give me, don't give it to me. Put it on hold. Give it to somebody else. When I'll need it, I'll borrow it back. And it started like it started developing into like a cycle of how I spoke to Hashem. And then today it's
you see it now.
That's very cool.
I don't ask for much. The only thing I ask, because I said before about a purpose. My purpose is different from yours. It's different from yours. At the end of the day, you have a Zayda that you can go to after this, and you could talk to him, and you could say, I met Mayor Weiss, and he's good in this. I don't have anything. The responsibility of building doidas falls on my shoulders. That's not an easy thing to carry. And even the more so when I know that I'm not perfect and I need to better myself, and I have traits that I'm trying not to be like my father, and I wanna be good to my kids. And the only way to be that good father is to be truthful and to follow the truth, because kids feel it. They feel it, they sense it. And that's where life decisions change, right? Because although I'm human and I'm 26 and everything's fine and loyal, I have to think to myself, I have to think more maturely than others, because I have to think and I have to say, Mayor, and this is what I think, Mayor, what's going to be 5-10 years from now? What are you going to look like? Even better, what are your kids going to look like? So every decision that I take has to be weighed accordingly. So there are a lot of things that I don't partake in, that I should partake in, because my cheshbon is different. I have to look out for things differently than the regular person. Before I had my two daughters, I used to daven every single day. Please continue my daughters. Extend, and you'll extend one generation more. My second daughter, the same thing. Now, hopefully I'm going to still have kids, right? But help them extend that's how the tree's going to start forming.
Gewalt. I love the underlying thread to, you shared something very nuanced about, deferring the chesed from the Eibusher to others. And that's a beautiful dynamic within tefillah. But underlying that is something that I think people that grow up within Yiddishkeit have a bigger avodah of doing this, which is acknowledging and participating in the relationship with the Eibishter that tefillah is.
Correct.
And when a person grows up learning the tefillahs before we have an understanding of what the words mean, and we're just davening the words, sometimes we're able to fluently and proficiently get through the entire davening without recognizing and realizing that we're having a dialogue with the Eibishter. And the way you're sharing it is it started from that dialogue, from that human connection with the infinite, and then that turned into tefillah, which gave it some form.
Right.
But the relationship is at the core of the whole avodah.
I sometimes feel that people don't chap, that people think like, a ger comes in, like you just mentioned, and it's there. Like that was the essence, but I had to work to get there. Sometimes people can see something that's like, you'll tell them this is white. No matter what you do, it's white. But people are not going to, they'll like, okay, fine, yeah, it's fine. People don't chab. When you dive into Hashem, He's listening to you. I've seen it across a lot of things. I'll go back December 31st, 2022. I was still in college. I'm an accountant, and I was looking at different options.
You really got promoted from the register job.
Right. I was looking at different options when, different places, interviewing at all these accounting firms, and I wasn't happy. I decided to take an internship. I was getting paid $20 an hour. I didn't have enough money to cover bills. And I'm pushing through. I had borrowed money from somebody. I needed to give the money back. The cheshbon was $28,000. I had 13 saved on the side that I was putting away as time went by. I promised him that I was going to pay him December 31st, 2022. I gave my word. I was trying to find a high-paying job here and there. It just didn't work. And then I said, you know what? Let me just... I've done enough. Guide me. Stop looking. Stop this. And I started working at where I'm currently at in August of 2022. Come December 31st, I had the $28,000 in full.
Wow.
And I thought to myself that I made the cheshbon. Maher, I asked myself, what happened here? You tried to find the highest paying job. You interviewed, you did this, you did that, you did 500 different things. You made a circle in your head, you frustrated yourself. The only thing you needed to do, hello? Yeah. Help me out. I can't do it. I need your help. Oh, you need me now. Okay, I'll help you. That's how it is. Hashem is he's not saying, don't talk to me. Oh, you try to do your own thing? Forgetting about you. When I daven, I'm already in debt to him. He's an unlimited credit card. No limit. I always say like this, Rosh Hashanah. I look back and I say, Hashem, sorry. I have good kids. I have a good wife. Good friends. I have a good way that I'm heading to. What did I do to deserve it? I didn't do nothing. That's the truth. I didn't do anything. But I feel that being true to him is what he appreciates so much. I feel that sometimes people just like blend into what is the world and they forget who they are as a person. And I always come back to him and I tell him, look, you don't have to extend this credit line. But if you do, don't do it for my sake. Do it for him. He needs kids. I have kids already. I don't need. You could hold one back, give one to him. Panusa. I don't have $1 million in my bank, but I don't owe anybody money. What's Panusa for? To become rich? To have a private jet? What? To live. I don't know anybody, so that means I'm breaking even. Could be. I could use $1 million, but I don't need it. At the end of the year, my balance is 0. That's what I need. I need it to break even. If you're going to throw in the $1 million, give it to somebody else. Don't give it to me. Give the blessing to this other person. Because I know you're here, and I know you exist. And I know that no matter what challenge you give me, I'm going to be there with you till the end. Something that I couldn't say for my father, which is also a suffering that I had by him, right? But I believe in him. And no matter what challenge he brings me, I know that ultimately I'm going to look back to it because it's happened plenty of times. It's just I'm still developing as a person also, right? It's not natural for a person to reflect and say, like, I made a mistake here. Really, it was like this, like, you're a work in progress your whole life. But plenty of times I had to give myself a smack in the back of my head, like, come on, Maya, you really thought you were going to do this. Hashem wanted you to do this. And I look back and I see all the blessings that I have. I don't deserve them. That's the truth. I don't deserve them. But I feel that when you think of other people, other people need more than you. Mm-hmm.
The one little reframe that I would offer you is that if the Eibishter decides to give you that shefa, it's not the Eibishter saying it's not for Yenim. It might just be him inviting you to be that vehicle to get it to Yenim.
To be the Eliyahu Hanavi.
There are those who say.
Yeah.
Mayor Weiss. It's been an absolute pleasure hearing your story. Many times I come into an episode and I know a lot of the content. I know the stories. I didn't know much. About your story, about you, but I'm very, very happy now that I do, and I'm very happy that now a lot of people will as well. Wish you much hatzlacha, shavnachas from your children, parnasa, more than even breaking even, so for others.
With Dairis from your beautiful family tree.
I'm saying the point of it is not for me not to have, and Yana should have, is that no matter the challenge, the power of my closeness to Hashem, I'm not going to deviate from him. I'm still stuck with him. I'm latched to him. Mm-hmm. He can't get rid of me. Mm-hmm. There are others that
need it
more than me.
Yeah.
Wow.
My bracha to you, my birchas hedya to you, is that the authenticity, just sitting here in the room, I can feel how alive and how on fire your neshama is, and I hope it comes across on the audio. But being in this room, I feel like I'm ignited.
It's palpable.
It's mamish is. And my bracha to you is that you had shared that the nature of hischadshus is that it fades. And my bracha to you is that fire, that authenticity, that genuine connection and relationship that you have worked so hard to build and to have with your Creator, that you continue to build that and renew that and continue to build that fire.
Amen.
Thank you. Ditto. I have a feeling that this is not the last we're going to be seeing or hearing of Mayor Weiss. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Meaningful People podcast. Big thank you to Mayor for coming in and telling us his story. We'd love to feature more people's stories. they don't have to be super well known, have been on the cover of any magazines or anything like that. I find that some of the best episodes come from these hidden gems like Mayor. And maybe you're from Williamsburg or Borough Park and you see Mayor. Maybe you work with him in the city, and maybe you didn't know about this story, but what a gem. You know, he went out of his comfort zone to tell us a story. He's more of an introverted guy, but the neshama pouring out of this fellow, unbelievable. A big thank you to him. Big thank you to the people, Ellie Schwab, that made this happen, that facilitated this episode. And of course, make sure to leave a rating, a review on our podcast, Meaningful People Podcast. We're coming at you with some more episodes. Yes, we'll have stuff for you before Tisha B'Av, after Tisha B'Av, during the 9 days. Amazing episodes coming your way. Please make sure to leave a rating and a review. And I can't wait to present you with some more content. Hope you enjoyed this video from Meaningful Minute. We have so much more content for you. You may like this. You may like this. Take your pick. Let us know what you think.